Kamala's high crimes at the border? That's the focus of tonight's angle. So as I said, she's hitting the border, hoping to turn the page on her reputation as an open border zealot. But instead, the book was opened to reveal the stomach-churning truth about the criminal element she welcomed in. In response to a congressional request for information, ICE revealed that more than 13,000 illegal aliens convicted of murder are now in the United States. Oh, and they're not in custody. More than 1,800 have been accused of murder as well. Nearly 16,000 have been convicted of sexual assault. But the Harris campaign is out with a new ad celebrating her border cred.
Kamala Harris has never backed down from a challenge. She put cartel members and drug traffickers behind bars, and she will secure our border.
Yes, someone got paid huge money to produce that ad. They really think Americans are that stupid? Yeah, that's what they think. Now, her role as California's AG mostly involves state-level crimes, not big cartel cases. And News Nation notes that her claims about jailing gang members for cross-border smuggling also seems inflated, because her cases mostly involve local drug offenses, not international smuggling operations. And in the Tucson sector where she's speaking today, under Harris and Biden, Customs Border Protection logged 1.2 million, as they call them, encounters since they took office. Now, during Trump's 4 years in office, almost 1 million fewer came in, or 246,000. Bill Malugin will give us key details and the total numbers coming up. They're truly shocking. Now, this has already devastated cities and towns across America, and there's no other conclusion to draw except that Biden and Harris and Mayorkas conspired to intentionally subvert America's sovereignty and the rule of law. Look, they believe borders are immoral. Oh, unless they're Ukraine's. They want an unending torrent of cheap labor flooding into the United States. And this is key, they want to change the electorate. Yeah, Elon Musk is right. Now, if this isn't impeachable conduct, I don't know what is. And I said this years ago, by the way. How is this not a high crime, high crimes and misdemeanors? Americans are dying because of these policies. And remember back in 2019, Democrats impeached Donald Trump based on what he said on a phone call with Zelensky. Now, Democrats spent countless man-hours, untold amounts of taxpayer money on a sham proceeding meant to hobble his presidency and affect the campaign. And the catalyst, let's not forget, were Ukrainian apologists working in the White House. Yet Joe and Kamala fling open our borders to millions of foreigners. They fast-track them into our communities. They destroy local cultures. They strain already strained budgets. And all along, we find out they've tried to hide the truth about the criminals that they allowed to walk right in and brutalize us. Again, I ask, how is that not a high crime in and of itself? The families of the victims who Biden and Harris have left behind probably have another word for this. I would imagine the word treason is on their minds. Now look at these faces. They've been arrested for everything from rape, murder, carjacking, robbery, domestic assault, DWI. None of them should have been here. And Harris's empty border rhetoric tonight does nothing to change the suffering endured by these families.
The horrors that my daughter suffered. And it's because of these open borders.
They are nothing but monsters who are predators, and those are the kind of individuals that we so openly let in this country. I believe the Biden-Harris administration open border policies are responsible for the death of my daughter.
Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and every Democrat who supports these open border policies are complicit in the deaths of 300,000 innocent Americans, including my son, Weston.
Now, it took ICE, by the way, about 6 months to get back to Congressman Gonzalez when he requested this information. But Harris has been so intent on keeping this out of the news that she won't even speak to her own administration's border chief. And she didn't speak to the last Border Patrol chief either.
I've never had one conversation with the president or the vice president for that matter. And so I was the chief of the Border Patrol. I commanded 21,000 people. That's a problem.
But pretending there's not a crisis of your own making is not a strategy, Madam Vice President. It's a tacit admission of failure. The Border Patrol, by the way, it doesn't really need more resources. What it needs is a president who believes that it's the fundamental duty, really the first duty of a president, to secure our borders. And her actions over the past 3.5 years, that's all we need to know about her belief in our system and our sovereignty. If stopping fentanyl at the border was a priority, other nations would have been put on notice by Kamala Harris. Mexico would have been warned of dire trade consequences as they were under Trump. If it didn't, like stopping human trafficking, is that a priority for her? If they really cared about children that they now use as pawns, they would have kept Remain in Mexico in place. But instead, on day one, Joe and Kamala dismantled every effective Trump border policy that was in place and that kept America safe. And by the way, I got to say this again. The idiotic so-called bipartisan border bill that Jim Langford and company tried to ram through, that died in the Senate, and Harris loves to cite this. It was such a farce that its only sponsors released it on, 48 hours notice. It was 370 pages long, by the way. Right before the vote, they finally released the text. And all you need to know about that legislation, again, that Kamala Harris will cite, is it gave CBP a paltry $7 billion in additional funding. Ukraine got $60 billion in the so-called border bill. So Americans are tired of butt-covering politicians in both parties. We know that. They want solutions. And in stark contrast to Harris's last-minute border choreography that we're going to watch tonight, Donald Trump is appealing to the pragmatic core of American voters.
I will send Congress a bill to ban sanctuary cities in the first day that I become president. I will end catch and release, and I will restore Remain in Mexico. We will seal the border. We will stop the invasion, and we will begin the largest deportation of criminals.
And he will. Immigration should be to our national benefit. It should not be used as a political strategy to juice the voter rolls or as a source of cheap labor to drive down American wages. So we can't expect Americans to keep opening up their wallets to protect the world when leaders refuse to protect us at home. And that's the angle.
Fox News alert. Kamala Harris is about to speak near the border. We'll take you there live when it happens. That was Kamala Harris, coming out and basically saying, I'm a big border hawk. She had her nice jacket on. This is her big border security speech she's about to give. She just let in 10 million illegals. Half of them were convicted criminals. That means about 5% of the Biden-Harris migrants are ex-cons. And Biden-Harris have no idea where they are. They let in 13,000 convicted murderers and lost track of them. They let in 15,000 convicted rapists, and now they're gone. I always assumed when an illegal was caught by Border Patrol and they did a background check and they found out the guy was a convicted murderer, they'd immediately detain them and deport them. But no, I had no idea Biden and Harris were catching convicted killers and letting them loose into the country. Oh, you murdered your brother? Here's a court date in 5 years and for your asylum hearing. Take this free phone, get on that plane. I hope you liked New York. Oh, you raped a kid? Here's a free sandwich, a free sex change, and a bus ticket to Houston. These people aren't seeking asylum. We should be seeking asylum from them. Trump says, I told you so.
Some egghead maybe said, oh, it's wonderful to release people, and it sounds so nice. We're releasing migrants into our country. But these are killers. These are people at the highest level of killing that cut your throat, and they won't even think about it the next morning. These are convicted people for life, are now in our country, and I can finally look at them and see, I say, I told you so to the fake news. What Kamala Harris has done is unforgivable. It's a crime, what she did. It's got to be criminal. There's no greater act of disloyalty than to extinguish the sovereignty of your own nation, and that's what she's done. She's ruined our nation. She's ruined our nation.
And the media called Trump a liar for saying countries were emptying their prisons. Well, where do you think 500,000 ex-cons came from? The gym? The fact that they impeached him over a phone call while Biden and Harris are processing rapists and murderers into the country. How is that not high crimes and misdemeanors? So along with the 300,000 migrant kids they lost, Biden and Harris lost tens of thousands of migrant killers and rapists, and the whole time they said the border was secure.
The border is secure.
You're confident this border is secure?
We have a secure border in that is a priority for any nation, including ours and our administration.
Democrats say Trump's dangerous. How? Because Kamala Harris is importing convicted murderers and rapists into America and then lying about it. She's the most dangerous presidential nominee in the history of American politics. She's created a geyser of sex trafficking, crime, addiction that'll impact America for decades. And she never went to the border once, but decided to go today of all days, a month before the election. I'm sure it has nothing to do with the election. Kamala is in the Tucson sector of Arizona tonight, the epicenter of her crisis. Look at how Biden and Harris blew open the border in Tucson after it was under control. And now she's there for a photo op on the eve of the election. And look how staged this border visit is. This wasn't about her seeing anything with her own eyes or learning the truth about illegal immigration. This was about getting the right shot of her walking along the border wall with Border Patrol agents. If we can show that. A wall she said she doesn't even believe in. Border Patrol agents who she falsely accused of whipping. Remember? She said they were whipping Haitians. Now, no one else will show you these scenes we're showing you. But what you're looking at is a frenzy of Harris staffers wrangling photographers to get the perfect picture as fast as possible so they can all get the hell out of there and just say they visited the border. Kamala was only actually at the border from 6:11 p.m. to 6:30 p.m., less than 20 minutes. That's not visiting the border. That's just a photo op. The cameras weren't even allowed to get the audio of her walk and talk with the agents, so we have no idea what was discussed. She never even addressed the press. It was like she walked the runway and went backstage. She was just there to show off her border outfit. And before her big border security speech, which we've been waiting for 4 years, they had a wacky woman warming up the crowd. Watch.
I came all the way from California, heard of, woo! That's right! That's right! Let me hear it! Let me hear it! She's driving in any minute now, and I want her to hear you in the car. So what do we say? Kamala, 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 Kamala. Hit your feet! Hit your feet!
This is supposed to be a deadly serious policy speech. And they have a warm-up act telling the audience how to clap, like Gutfeld exclamation. Kamala's blaming Trump for the problem she created and telling you everything she wants to do to fix it, but never did when she had the chance. She says it's time for a strong border. Well, why hasn't she done it? She's stopped Trump's border wall and then sold the extra steel for scrap. She ended Remain in Mexico. She brought back catch and release and has deported less than 1% of the illegals she let in. Less than 1%. If she wants to stop illegal immigration, she should stop flying them into the country. She claims the border crossing numbers are down. She's just not counting the migrants she's flying here and sending to the ports of entry so they can break into the country with their border app. Remember the one you make a reservation to break into the country with? Open table for illegals, as we call it. And what's the point of asking for more Border Patrol agents if they're just going to keep catching and releasing people? Fentanyl has exploded under Kamala's watch. Why hasn't she done anything about it? How can all of this be Trump's fault if he's not in power? But she is. He doesn't have the power to do anything about the border. She does. Kamala keeps saying she prosecuted drug cartels in California. Then why didn't she do anything as vice president? The cartels quadrupled their cash flow under Harris. They're the only ones who have wages going up. If Kamala Harris really wanted to secure the border, she would have called the Border Patrol chief and made a plan.
I've never had one conversation with the president or the vice president for that matter. And so I was the chief of the Border Patrol. I commanded 21,000 people. That's a problem.
Think about how backwards all of this is. The border czar brings 500,000 criminals into the country and thinks it's mean to deport them. She thinks it's cruel to deport criminals. She's actually promising mass amnesty instead of mass deportations, when the majority of the country wants mass deportations. Everyone in America knows better.
She's trying to make the case that, you know, she has been tough on the border as a prosecutor in California. What do you make of that? What do you make of that?
It's lies.
What do you make of Democrats trying to argue that they are tough on the border?
It's political rhetoric that's an absolute lie.
The Border Patrol is calling Kamala's visit tonight nothing more than a check the box and slap in the face to the American public. They're asking, where's she been? Kamala went to Europe before she went to the border. She deserted the people of Arizona. If the election was held today, Kamala Harris would lose Arizona. The last 3 polls out of Arizona, Donald Trump's beating her soundly. She knowingly put Americans' lives in danger for political power. Mass migration would lead to mass amnesty, which would lead to a massive amount of new Democrat voters and congressional power. Americans have died and will continue to die because of this reckless political gamble. Kamala Harris has blood on her hands, and I know the American people will never, ever elect someone like that as President of the United States.
Welcome to Hannity this Friday night. We start tonight with a Fox News alert. 3 U.S. warships were attacked tonight while entering the Red Sea. The American vessels were forced to intercept nearly 24 missiles and drones launched by the Iranian-backed Houthi rebel militants. We have a full report on this coming up with Trey Yang straight ahead. Also tonight, 3 individuals with ties to Iran have been indicted in a plot against Donald Trump. Also, Israel just delivered a massive major blow against Hezbollah terrorists deep inside Beirut. And coming up, Trey Yanks reports on all of it. He's on the ground in Israel tonight. But first, our top story. With only 39 days until this inflection point of our country, and that means the election, and nearly 4 years into her role as border czar, Kamala Harris has now figured out and pretending she knows that she cares and has solutions for the crisis of her own doing that she created at the border with Joe Biden. Now, of course, this is all an act. Her statements were obscene, absurd, dishonest, fake, phony, fraudulent, and we're watching and witnessing one of the most dishonest presidential campaigns in American history, all aided and abetted by a complicit and abusively biased media. Tonight's trip to the border reeks of nothing but political desperation. But according to Kamala, she has finally found, after 3.5+ long years of looking, the root cause of illegal immigration, and she knows how to fix it. Although she wants more bureaucrats to process more fake asylum claims to allow more illegal immigrants into the country. Oh, that's a genius idea. And 1 more agent for every 5 miles. What a genius. Take a look.
So I've just come from visiting the border and the port of entry in Douglas. I spoke with dedicated agents from Border Patrol and customs officers who every day see the overflow of commercial traffic through the port. These men and women who work there and at other places along our southern border help keep our nation secure. And they need more resources to do their jobs.
That's what it is. But she's been telling us for 3.5 years, no, the border's secure. The border's secure. In other words, she wants the federal government to facilitate an even greater volume of illegal immigrants, quickly dumping them into your town, your city, all across the country without all the, burdensome, chaotic scenes at the border. That is her plan pretty much in a nutshell. Not only will it not work, it is completely insane, which brings us to a quick Hannity history lesson, shall we? 4 years ago, Kamala Harris inherited the most secure border on record. And as President Donald Trump made it a top priority to implement enhanced security measures. He was called racist and all sorts of names for doing so, but that included miles and miles of new border wall, new funding for Border Patrol, critical diplomatic agreements with multiple countries, especially Mexico. Stay in Mexico policy may sound familiar, all to prevent illegal immigration at the source. But during their very first week in office, Joe Biden and Kamala, they repealed with the stroke of a single pen all of those measures. They repealed all of them. They bragged about repealing all of them. They even halted all ongoing border wall construction and got rid of the materials for pennies on the dollar, leaving millions of dollars worth of materials to rot and decay in other cases in the elements. Almost overnight, the border went from completely safe and secure to a full-blown crisis, the likes of which this country has never seen. Take a look at the chart. Numbers don't lie. Neither do scenes from the border that you can see with your own eyes. And that is illegals, oh, yeah, camped underneath bridges, the shelters that are overwhelmed. Oh, remember the kids in Harris-Biden cages at the height of COVID, overcrowded? A border totally overrun by millions of unvetted illegal immigrants from over 180 countries, many with terror ties, some of our top geopolitical foes, no documentation, no identification, and that was just the beginning of what is now a full-blown national security, public safety crisis for everyone in this country. They have known suspected terrorists. Yeah, they have flooded into our country. I'm sure many are plotting and planning and scheming an attack on our country. Human traffickers, drug traffickers at levels we've never seen before as a country. Fentanyl deaths, overdose deaths at record highs. Violent gangs now, they're taking over neighborhoods, towns, New York City, Chicago, schools, hospitals, affordable housing, all overwhelmed by the 11.5 that we know about. Unvetted Harris-Biden illegal immigrants, countless numbers of American citizens. Let's see. They have been murdered. They have been raped. They have been victims of other horrific crimes, all by Harris-Biden unvetted violent criminals who never should have been allowed into your country, but are because of them and their stupidity. And then they're lying about, oh, the border's secure, border's closed, border's secure, border's closed. But they have blood on their hands as a result. Think of Maryland mother of 5, Rachel Morin, brutally beaten, brutally raped, stuffed into a drain pipe by a Harris-Biden unvetted illegal immigrant who abducted, murdered her along with her, along a popular hiking trail. Then you got this young Houston girl, 12-year-old Jocelyn Nungary. We had her mother and grandfather right here on this program, raped and brutalized for 2 hours by 2 unvetted Harris-Biden illegal immigrants. They dumped her body in a river. You have a nursing student by the name of Laken Riley. Remember her? Murdered by an illegal immigrant along a running trail near the University of Georgia. And look at all the other names of victims. Look at these names. It goes on. Dozens and dozens and dozens of Americans raped, murdered, victims of violent crimes because of their wide open borders. And breaking today, a scary new report, the director of ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, confirming to FoxNews.com that more than 13,000 Harris-Biden illegal immigrants are convicted of murder are now roaming around your country. 13,000 murderers on the loose inside our country, along with an additional 2,000 with pending murder charges. Meanwhile, more than 15,000 convicted rapists, sex offenders are also in your country illegally, and more than 2,500 kidnappers are on the loose. All told, more than 400,000 criminal illegal immigrants, even those with terror ties, spread across America. And you can thank your border czar Kamala Harris, along with, another 222,000 pending criminal charges. Kamala did all of that. She's the border czar. She let these people in. And make no mistake, this is beyond a dereliction of duty. This is the most preventable but yet vulnerable domestic security failure in the history of this country. Why did Kamala put so many American lives at risk? Why did she allow so many Americans to die, get raped, be victims of violent crime? The answer, unfortunately, is pretty simple. is that Kamala represents a dangerous mix of radicalism, extremism, and utter complete stupidity and incompetence. And according to her, in her own words, she never even really believed in the concept of illegal immigration. Can't make this up. You can't say this is AI generated. It's her. Take a look.
I am in favor of saying that we're not going to treat people who are undocumented across the border as criminals. That's correct. That is correct.
Also have the courage to reject that term illegal alien. I have seen some of the worst of criminal behavior. I have seen the worst of crime. An undocumented immigrant is not a criminal.
I know what a crime looks like. And I will tell you, an undocumented immigrant is not a criminal. An undocumented immigrant is not a criminal. Being an undocumented immigrant is not a crime.
No, it's a crime. This is a country that's supposed to be governed by laws. You lecture Republicans, Donald Trump, all the time, don't you? And that's not all. Kamala seems to think that the federal budget is a magical slush fund, unlimited money for anyone in the world that walks across this border. You get free food, free housing, free health care, education. You want a sex change operation? She'll pay for that, too. This is insane. Take a look.
Up, up with education, down, down with deportation. Up, up with education, down, down with deportation.
You support giving universal health care, Medicare for all, to people who are in this country illegally?
Let me just be very clear about this. I am opposed to any policy that would deny in our country any human being from access to public safety, public education, or public health, period. For the commander-in-chief to suggest that we have to build a wall across our southern border because there are terrorists who are trying to invade the country, it couldn't be farther from the truth.
On the subject of transnational gangs, let's be perfectly clear. The president's medieval vanity project is not going to stop them.
I believe if someone crosses over the border illegally, it is illegal, and you would decriminalize it.
I would not make it a crime punishable by jail. It should be a civil enforcement issue. Listen, I think there's no question that we've got to critically re-examine ICE and its role and the way that it is being administered and the work it is doing, and we need to probably think about starting from scratch.
We have murderers, we have rapists, we have people with known terror ties, we have gangs, we have drug traffickers, all that she has let in. Oh, and we have Iranian assassins looking to kill Donald Trump. As borders are, when Kamala's radical policies led to a full-blown crisis, she lied straight to your face. She acted like it's not happening. The border's secure. She looked at scenes like the ones you're looking at right there and flat out told you, no, this isn't happening. The border is secure. She told you over and over again. Take a look.
Would you call the border secure?
I think that there is no question that we have to do what the president and I asked Congress to do. Is the first request we made. Pass a bill to create a pathway to citizenship. The border is secure.
You're confident this border is secure?
We have a secure border in that is a priority for any nation, including ours and our administration.
For 3.5 years, she flat out refused to even visit the southern border, as borders are, to see the crisis up close and personal and firsthand. After all, why go to the border? Think about this. If you haven't been to Europe, why would you go to the border? You decide.
The notion that the border is closed. Why should they believe you when they know that people are getting in?
Well, Lester, here's the thing. I've been working on this issue for a very long time.
Do you have any plans to visit the border?
I'm here in Guatemala today. At some point, we are going to the border. We've been to the border. So this whole thing about the border, we've been to the border. We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I mean, I don't understand the point that you're making.
I haven't been to Europe either. Europe, get ready. She's probably on her way. After lying about the border crisis for years, pretending it wasn't a real crisis, terrible poll numbers now finally forced Kamala to switch tactics. With 39 days to go to Election Day, of course, she wasn't actually willing to put in the work to fix the wide-open southern border. Instead, she tried to blame, or pass the blame, actually blame Donald Trump, who gave her the most secure border in history. But you know, when all else fails and the dog bites and the bee stings and you're feeling sad and you left the border wide open, just blame Trump. Easy. Take a look.
We do have a broken immigration system, and it needs to be fixed. And if we take a step back, months ago, some of the most conservative members of the United States Congress came together with others, proposed a border security bill. Donald Trump got word of the bill, realized it was going to fix a problem he wanted to run on, and told them to kill the bill, don't put it up for a vote. He killed a bill that would have actually been a solution because he wants to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem.
Okay, this lie needs to be debunked. This was never a border security bill, one of the dumbest bills in history. It was blocked by Senate Republicans because it did nothing to secure the border. As a matter of fact, it wouldn't even kick in until 4,000 or 5,000 illegals actually crossed into the country illegally, and then they had the discretion whether to enforce it or not, which would codify what they've been doing into law. It encouraged illegal immigration by reducing wait times at the border for illegals. So, again, codified open borders into law. That was not a border security bill. Now, the photo op in Douglas, Arizona today is nothing but a slap in the face to every American. It's like a criminal returning to the scene of a crime, and the residents of this border town not exactly happy with Kamala's visit. Sarah Carter recently spoke with some of the locals right there on the ground that have been dealing with the truth for 3.5 years. Let's listen to what they have to say.
We have the vice president coming in today. Why do you think she's here?
Because she's the flip-flopper, and she's trying to get some votes at the last minute. Where was she 3.5, 4 years ago?
How do you feel about Vice President Kamala Harris's visit here today?
I'd like to be over in her face.
What would you tell her?
I'd say, it's about time you visited the border. I said, let me show you what it's really like.
It's all publicity. It's kind of like she's here. She doesn't care. She just cares about winning.
Why do you think she's here?
Politics, of course.
So you're not being fooled?
No, absolutely not. I mean, she's had, 3.5, 4 years to do something of some consequences and hasn't done anything, and I don't think she's going to do anything but carry on another word salad, I guess.
Immigration and Customs Enforcement just released a report that tens of thousands of illegal migrants with sexual assault records, criminal records, have been released into the country. They don't even know where some of them are, or even how they're going to get them back. How does that make you feel?
Pretty scared, but us living close to the border like that, this has been going on for almost 4 years now, so it's not new. It just needs to be stopped.
If you had a chance to talk to the vice president today, what would you tell her?
She's honestly not worth talking to. She doesn't have a clue what's going on in the country. She's just there for herself.
My message to her is go back to San Francisco and fix what you screwed up. We don't need you here telling us what we need, because it's obvious after 3.5 years of being the border czar, she hasn't got a damn clue what's going on and what needs to be done.
Does Kamala really believe she, could just waltz into town for a photo op 39 days before the election and everything's going to be forgiven? Kamala, why don't you call the families of murdered loved ones because of the unvetted illegals you let into the country? Call the families of people that have been raped and the families that were victims of other violent crimes because you failed in your job. Spare us the phony photo ops, or maybe you could go to the White House and wake Joe up, reinstate all of Trump's border protections that worked, that you bragged about undoing. It's not going to happen because Kamala wants illegal immigration and mass amnesty and free sex change operations and a wide open border. And guess what? She just doesn't want you to notice.
All right, I'll stay, but only for one drink.
It's Friday, so you know what that means. Let's welcome tonight's guest. His razors are the opposite of his act. Not terrible. Comedian and founder of Western Razor Company, David Angelo. She says, bless your heart before she rips you apart. Co-host of The Bottom Line on Fox Business, David McDowell. He made his bones killing bad guys with drones. National security analyst and Fox News contributor Brett Vilikovich. She went from having scabies to making babies. New York Times best-selling author, Fox News contributor Kat Tiff. That's my favorite rhyme.
That's true.
Scabies and babies.
That one was accurate.
Awesome. All right. Before we get to some news stories, let's do this. Yeah, the open
Greg's
fridge.
Leftovers.
Yeah, it's Leftovers, where I read the jokes we didn't use this week, and as always, it's my first time reading them. So if they suck, we'll send Joe Mackey to The View dressed as a cupcake. Donald Trump is planning a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania next month, the same town where he was shot. Not to be outdone, Biden will also be returning to the scene where he almost died. Joy Behar and Wanda Sykes fear that Donald Trump will put comedians in jail. Well, good news, ladies, you're both safe. A woman who ate nothing but sardines for 3 months said she lost 35 pounds and it cured her chronic medical complaints. Plus, she's got a new boyfriend. I loved his music. Disgraced former Governor Andrew Cuomo is reportedly considering a run for New York City mayor. He's already campaigning for the youth vote since he killed all the old people. Slight exaggeration. Only some. Joe Biden referred to J.D. Vance as a secretary during an event yesterday. Even more absurd, he referred to his wife as a doctor. Mark Zuckerberg unveiled a new holographic smart glasses this week. Look at them. The glasses will allow users to translate words spoken in foreign countries. So you can hear, what a dork, in 24 languages. This week, former NASCAR driver Danica Patrick endorsed Trump and then said she wanted to help make America great again. And I say, what a better way for her to do that than to stop encouraging women to drive. Sexist. I know. I'm glad you caught that, sexism. Singer Lana Del Rey married an alligator tour guide, which might help if one day she ever opens for Madonna. Sorry. Earlier today, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu addressed the UN General Assembly. To make sure that the pro-Hamas protesters wouldn't show up late, he offered to page them first. Yeah. Vice President Harris finally paid a visit to our southern border, and while she spoke to reporters, her husband interviewed potential nannies. This week, Prince Harry screamed with terror as he navigated a haunted house with Jimmy Fallon. Harry said the scariest part was being confronted by the ghosts of his missing testicles. The most sexually active woman in Australia claims she's close to her goal of sleeping with 600 men this year. I wonder if she counted those who banged her in the outback. It's a large part of the country. The ass. P. Diddy and crypto fraudster Sam Bankman-Fried are reportedly bunkmates in jail. Diddy is said to be thrilled to have been paired up with someone with such a nice rack. California's plastic bag ban is now in effect, prompting Nancy Pelosi to go into hiding. Terrible. Amtrak announced a 2-day route from Chicago to Florida. It's the only trip where a one-way ticket is more expensive than the round trip. See, because no one wants to go back to Chicago. So that's why the one-way is more expensive. Round trip. Thank you, sir. I knew that would take a while. And finally, the world's largest cheesecake was served at a cream cheese festival in New York. It ain't the largest anymore, said one man. Cheap, but it always works. All right, so 2 days have come and gone since Kamala's first big girl interview without a chaperone. And the media is beginning to notice what we've known for a while, that the more you hear from her, the more you understand why the left doesn't want you to hear from her. Check out her greatest hits from Wednesday night.
Well, but we're going to have to raise corporate taxes, and we're going to have to make sure that the biggest corporations and billionaires pay their fair share. That's just it. Looking holistically at the connection between that and housing, and looking holistically at the incentives we in the federal government can create for local and state governments to actually engage in planning in a holistic manner.
Just want to ask you yes or no. At any point in your life, have you served 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun, working at a McDonald's? Yes or no? That's it.
I have.
Sure you have, Kamala. And Brian Stelter just opened a 24-hour health club. You know, I love how she never says where this McDonald's was. You want lies with that shake? At least working with Biden has taught her what a number 2 is. And it's not a cheeseburger combo. But the interview was such a disaster, even the New York Times couldn't spin it. They tore Kamala's interview apart like The View gnawing through a platter of pulled pork sandwiches. Here's this quote. Ms. Harris responded to the fairly basic and predictable questions with roundabout responses that did not provide a substantive answer. Or this, a hard-hitting Harris interview is still yet to come. Wow. Or this, it's not quite clear what Ms. Harris gained, aside from giving her campaign aides the ability to say she held a one-on-one cable television interview. Now, that may sound mild to you, but for the Times, that's them losing their collective. Even they knew that when she talked, she made a ball of yarn sound like Socrates. Hell, Kamala's so bad these days, it's driving some at the UN to drink. That was the transitional leader of Haiti, Edgar LeBlanc. No relation to Matt. I want to see it again. I'd say someone get that man a plastic straw. Too bad they're banned. So while they push Harris on us like a reverse mortgage on a timeshare, they also tried to hide who she really is. It's a catch-22. We're witnessing an election version of hiding the kids' presents until Christmas morning, except the gifts are a pile of wrapped manure and the parents of the Democratic Party in the media. It's the total opposite with Donald Trump. Sure, he says a lot of stuff, but within that, he breezily offers pointed specifics. And I'll take that over this game of hide and seek. Go ahead, ask him if he will settle the war in Ukraine and he will end the chaos in the Middle East.
I will settle the war in Ukraine and I will end the chaos in the Middle East and I will prevent something that nobody else will be able to do. I will prevent World War III. Do you think Biden lies awake at night thinking how are we going to get Europe to pay? No, he goes to sleep. Here's a guy can sleep on the beach. How do you sleep on the beach when you have cameras on? I will never sleep on the beach in front of live television, I promise.
Has anyone ever promised that before? Has anyone ever had to? He's pointing out that not only does the emperor have no clothes, he has no empire. All he has is a beach umbrella and memories of corn pop and cannibalism. So you got a candidate in Harris who says nothing and means even less, and you got Trump who will say whatever he wants but tells you exactly what he thinks, take it or leave it. For a media that demands transparency, it's the biggest hypocrisy of all. They pick the candidate who won't reveal her plans, perhaps because they know how bad they could be. Right, Joe?
As vice president, there wasn't a single thing that I did that she couldn't do. And so I was able to delegate her responsibility on everything from foreign policy to domestic policy.
That's what you call a sick burn. As the Harris campaign tries to find daylight between their crummy candidate and the past 4 years of hell, Joe says, hold on, kids. She was with me every step of the way, from Afghanistan to the border. Maybe he's not so demented after all.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.